I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my silk blouse for the 100th time, wondering how my fairy tale wedding had morphed into this suffocating nightmare in just 6 months. The reflection staring back at me wasn't the confident marketing executive I used to be. I barely recognized myself anymore. I'm Bailey, and I never thought I'd be the type of woman who'd let herself be pushed around by her in-laws. Yet here I was, preparing for another dreaded Sunday dinner at their house, where every bite would be seasoned with criticism and every gesture scrutinized. "Bailey, we're going to be late," Kirk called from downstairs. My husband's voice carried that edge of anxiety it always had when it came to his parents. "Mom's already texted twice." "Coming!" I grabbed my casserole dish, a recipe Rhea had passive-aggressively suggested I try to master last week. The smell of perfectly roasted vegetables filled the air, but I knew it wouldn't be good enough. Nothing ever was. The drive to their suburban fortress was tense. Kirk's knuckles were white on the steering wheel as he lectured me about proper etiquette, as if I hadn't heard it all before. "Remember to offer to help with dishes right after dinner. Last time you waited too long, and Mom noticed." I bit my tongue until I tasted blood. "Kirk, I know the drill." "I just want everything to go smoothly," he said, his voice softening slightly. "They mean well, you know that." The grand house loomed before us, all brick and judgment. Rhea opened the door before we could ring the bell, her perfectly coiffed hair and pearls a stark contrast to my simple outfit. "You're late," she said, kissing Kirk's cheek while barely glancing at me. "And Bailey, dear, didn't I mention this was a formal dinner?" I looked down at my pressed slacks and silk blouse, perfectly appropriate for any normal dinner. "I'm sorry, Rhea. I must have misunderstood." Morgan appeared behind her, martini in hand. Come in, though I do wish you'd make more of an effort to be punctual. Respect for time is respect for family." The evening unfolded like a well-rehearsed play. I helped Rhea in the kitchen while Kirk and Morgan discussed business in the study. Every move I made was wrong. I chopped the onions too roughly. I didn't fold the napkins the family way. I used the wrong serving spoon for the salad. "In this family," Rhea said, stirring her sauce with practiced precision, "we have standards. Standards that have been maintained for generations." She paused, eyeing my casserole. "I see you attempted the roasted vegetables again." "Yes, I followed your recipe exactly." "Hmm." She lifted the lid and sniffed. "Well, it's better than last time." During dinner, I sat quietly as they discussed family history, business ventures, and their country club memberships. Kirk occasionally squeezed my hand under the table, but remained silent when his mother criticized my career. "I just don't understand why you insist on working such long hours," Rhea said, delicately dabbing her lips. "A wife's place is in the home, isn't that right, Morgan?" "Indeed. My mother never worked a day in her life, and she raised 3 successful children." "Times have changed," I ventured carefully. "Many women balance both career and family now." The silence that followed was deafening. Rhea's fork clinked against her plate as she set it down. Perhaps that's why this generation's family values are crumbling. When I married Morgan, I knew my responsibility was to the family first. "Bailey has some modern ideas," Kirk said weakly, avoiding my eyes. The evening culminated with Rhea's coup de grace over coffee and dessert. "You know, Bailey, when Kirk first brought you home, I worried you might not understand our family's traditions." And well, she smiled, all teeth and venom. "I suppose mothers do know best." I felt something snap inside me. 6 months of suppressed anger and resentment threatened to burst forth, but I swallowed it down with my lukewarm coffee. As I mechanically helped clear the dishes, I caught my reflection in the dining room mirror again. Behind me, Rhea was instructing Kirk about some family event, while Morgan nodded approvingly. That's when I realized this wasn't just about tonight. This was my future stretching endlessly before me, an infinite series of Sunday dinners where I slowly disappeared, piece by piece, until nothing remained but an obedient shadow in a silk blouse. As we drove home in silence, Kirk reached for my hand. That wasn't so bad, was it? I pulled away, turning to stare out the window at the passing streetlights. Something had changed inside me tonight. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but I knew one thing for certain. I wouldn't disappear without a fight. Monday morning hit like a sledgehammer. I rushed through my morning routine, already running late for a client meeting because I'd spent an hour scrubbing the bathroom to Ria's standards. She was dropping by for a surprise inspection later. "Your presentation materials are still on the kitchen counter," Kirk called out as I grabbed my keys. "And Mom texted, she wants you to prepare her special pot roast recipe for dinner." I froze at the door. "Kirk, I have 3 client meetings today. I can't possibly— Bailey, please. You know how she gets. Just make it work, okay?" The resignation in his voice made my blood boil. I spun around to face him. "When are you going to stand up to them? When are you going to be my husband instead of their son?" Kirk's face hardened. "You knew what you were marrying into. This is how our family works. My parents sacrificed everything to give me the life I have, and I owe them respect." Respect? Yes. Servitude? No. I grabbed my bag. "I'm late for work." At the office, my friend Delaney caught me stress-eating a muffin at my desk. "Rough weekend with the in-laws from hell?" "You have no idea." I showed her the growing list of texts from Ria about dinner preparations. She's basically turned me into her personal chef and housekeeper. "Girl, you need to set some boundaries." "I've tried, but Kirk," my voice cracked. "He always takes their side." "Have you considered couples therapy?" I laughed bitterly. Ria would sooner die than let family problems be discussed with outsiders. A knock at my office door interrupted us. It was Jeffrey, Kirk's younger brother, looking uncomfortable in his suit and tie. "Hey, Bailey, got a minute?" Delaney squeezed my shoulder as she left, closing the door behind her. "I wanted to check on you after last night," Jeffrey said, settling into a chair. "Mom was particularly brutal. Nothing I'm not used to by now." "You shouldn't have to be used to it." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Look, I know how they operate. I've watched them do this to every person who's married into the family. They break people down until there's nothing left." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're different. You're stronger than they expect." He glanced at the door. "Just be careful. They have ways of maintaining control. Financial ties, emotional manipulation. They're experts at it." "And what about Kirk? Why doesn't he see it?" Jeffrey's expression softened. "Kirk's their masterpiece. He'll never go against them. Trust me, I've watched him choose them over everyone else his entire life." After Jeffrey left, I buried myself in work until my phone buzzed with another text from Ria. "Don't forget to pick up fresh thyme for the pot roast. The grocery store on Oak Street has the best produce. And please wear something appropriate when I visit." That outfit from Sunday was rather casual. I slammed my phone down, startling my assistant. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of meetings and deadlines, but my mind kept circling back to Jeffrey's warning. At 5:30, I called Kirk. "I'm staying late at work. There's a client emergency." "Bailey, you know Mom's coming for dinner. She's expecting—" "Then you make the pot roast," I snapped. "I'm done being her servant." "Why are you being so difficult? This is about respect." "No, this is about control, and I'm done playing their game." I hung up and drove to meet my friend Madeline at our favorite coffee shop. She listened as I poured out everything: the constant criticism, Kirk's betrayal, Jeffrey's warning. "You know what this is, right?" Madeline said, stirring her latte. "It's abuse. They're systematically destroying your independence." "I know." I wrapped my hands around my cold coffee. "But what can I do? Kirk controls our finances, his parents have connections everywhere in town, and I—" "You're not trapped, Bailey. There are always options." My phone lit up with messages: Kirk, Ria, even Morgan now. I turned it face down on the table. "I can't keep living like this," I whispered. "Then don't." Madeline's voice was steel. "But whatever you do, be smart about it. People like them don't give up control easily." When I finally got home that night, Kirk was waiting up. "Mom's furious. She sat here for 2 hours." "I don't care." I cut him off, my voice steady. "I'm going to bed." As I lay awake, listening to Kirk's quiet breathing beside me, I thought about Jeffrey's words and Madeline's advice. They were right. I needed to be careful, but I also needed to act. Something had to change, and soon. I just didn't know yet how far I'd have to go to make that happen. The following Saturday, while Kirk was golfing with his father, I tackled the attic cleaning project Rhea had been nagging about for weeks. The musty space was crammed with generations of Holland family history, each box labeled in Rhea's precise handwriting. I was halfway through sorting old photo albums when I knocked over a heavy metal filing box. Papers scattered across the floor, and as I gathered them up, a medical document caught my eye. Patient exhibits severe allergic reaction to... I squinted at the faded text, my heart beginning to race as I read further. My phone buzzed. Madeline calling. "You'll never believe what I just found," I said, still staring at the papers. "Tell me over lunch. I'm outside your house right now." 20 minutes later, we sat in a quiet corner of a cafe across town, the medical records spread between us. "So both Rhea and Morgan are allergic to shellfish?" Madeline asked, examining the documents. "Severely allergic?" "According to these records, yes. But look at the dates. These are from years ago. And here's the weird part. There's a whole file of legal documents about keeping it quiet. Something about a business deal that fell through because of it." "Their perfect image," Madeline mused. "They couldn't let anyone know about a weakness." "Exactly. Kirk never mentioned this. I've watched Rhea refuse seafood at restaurants, always claiming she simply doesn't care for it." "Information is power, Bailey." Madeline's eyes met mine. "Especially with people like them." I gathered the papers carefully. "I need to think about this. Just be careful. Whatever you're planning." "I'm not planning anything," I said quickly. Too quickly. Back home, I was hiding the documents in my home office when Kirk returned from golf. "What are you doing in here?" he asked, making me jump. "Just organizing some work files." I turned to face him, keeping my voice steady. "How was golf?" "Dad's trying to convince me to take over as CEO when he retires next year." Kirk loosened his collar. "Says it's my duty to the family." "And what do you want?" "What I want doesn't matter. Family comes first, you know that." I watched him walk away, remembering the bright-eyed man I'd fallen in love with 2 years ago. Where had that person gone? My phone buzzed with a text from Jeffrey. "Need to talk. Important. Coffee tomorrow?" We met early Sunday morning at a small cafe downtown, far from his parents' usual haunts. "They're planning something," Jeffrey said without preamble. "I overheard Mom and Dad talking about putting you in your place, once and for all." "What does that mean?" "They want Kirk to make you quit your job. They're going to pressure him to get you pregnant, trap you in their world completely." He leaned forward. "They've done it before, to our cousin's wife. She had a breakdown and left town." My hands shook as I set down my coffee. "Kirk wouldn't he? You've seen how he is with them." I thought about the medical records hidden in my office. What if someone had information about them? Something they wanted to keep secret? Jeffrey's eyes narrowed. "Be careful, Bailey. They destroy people who threaten them. They're already destroying me." Back home, I pulled out the medical records again, spreading them across my desk. My marketing brain kicked in, analyzing angles, possibilities, consequences. My phone lit up with Rhea's name. "Dinner at our house tonight. Wear something appropriate this time." I was about to decline when another text came through. "We need to discuss your role in this family." A plan started forming in my mind. I texted back, "Of course, I'll bring dessert." That afternoon, I met Delaney for a quick coffee break at work. "You seem different today," she observed, "more focused." "I found something," I said quietly. "Something that might give me leverage." "Against the in-laws?" She lowered her voice. "What kind of leverage?" "The kind that could change everything." I hesitated. "But I need your help. You used to work in medical administration, right?" "Bailey." Her expression grew serious. "Whatever you're thinking of doing, make sure you can live with the consequences." I thought about Kirk's submission to his parents, Jeffrey's warning, the years of manipulation ahead of me if I did nothing. "The consequences of doing nothing would be worse," I said firmly. As I drove home that evening, my mind was racing with possibilities. The medical records felt like a loaded gun in my bag. Dangerous, but powerful. I just had to decide if I was willing to pull the trigger. The confrontation with Kirk happened on a rainy Tuesday evening. I'd just finished a call with Delaney about the medical records when he stormed into the kitchen, waving his phone. "Mom's crying," he said, his voice shaking. "She says you've been ignoring her calls about the charity gala planning." I set down my coffee mug carefully. "I've been working, Kirk. I have a career, remember?" "This is important to them. The gala is our family's biggest social event of the year." "Their family," I corrected, "not ours." Kirk's face reddened. "That's exactly the attitude they warned me about. Mom says you're trying to drive a wedge between us." "Between us?" I laughed bitterly. "There already is a wedge. It's called your parents. Don't talk about them like that." He slammed his hand on the counter. "They've given us everything." "Given us?" I stood up. "They've taken everything from me. My independence, my self-respect, my husband." "That's enough." Kirk's voice rose to a shout. "Mom was right. You need to quit your job and focus on your real responsibilities." The room went silent. I stared at him, feeling something final snap inside me. "What did you just say?" "We've discussed it," he continued, quieter now. "Dad's offering you a position managing the family's charitable foundation. Part-time, of course. That way, you can focus on starting our family." My phone buzzed. Delaney texting about what she'd found in the medical records. I ignored it. "You discussed my career with your parents?" My voice was ice. "You planned my entire future without even talking to me?" "They know what's best for us." "No." I grabbed my keys. "They know what's best for them." I drove through the rain to Delaney's apartment, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. She opened the door before I could knock. "You look like hell," she said, pulling me inside. "They want me to quit my job." I collapsed onto her couch. "They're trying to trap me completely." Delaney sat beside me, opening her laptop. "Then you need to see what I found. Those medical records? They're just the beginning." She pulled up financial documents, legal papers, old news articles. Their shellfish allergy isn't just a medical condition. It's tied to a massive insurance fraud case from 15 years ago. They claimed Morgan had a severe reaction at a business dinner, sued the restaurant for millions. "But the records show they knew about the allergy years before that," I said, leaning closer. "Exactly. And that restaurant? It went bankrupt. The owner lost everything." My phone kept buzzing. Kirk, Rhea, even Morgan now. I turned it off. "There's more," Delaney continued. "I found similar patterns. They've used their condition to manipulate situations, destroy competitors, control narratives. It's all about power. Just like what they're doing to me." "Bailey." Delaney closed her laptop. "What are you thinking?" Before I could answer, there was a knock at the door. Jeffrey stood there, looking worried. "Kirk called me," he said, stepping inside. "Said you had a fight." "They want me to quit my job." Jeffrey nodded grimly. "I figured this was coming. Mom's been planning it for weeks." "I found something," I said suddenly. "About your parents, about their allergies." His eyes widened as I explained. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. "The restaurant they sued," he said finally. "The owner was my first girlfriend's father. After they destroyed him, they made sure I never saw her again." "Will you help me?" I asked. "Help you what?" "Take back control. Make them understand they can't keep doing this to people." Jeffrey ran a hand through his hair. "What exactly are you planning?" Delaney spoke up. "Something that could backfire spectacularly if we're not careful." My phone buzzed again when I turned it back on. A text from Rhea. "Family dinner this Sunday. Non-negotiable. We need to discuss your recent behavior." "Perfect timing," I said, showing them the message. "They're planning to ambush me at dinner, but what if I ambush them instead?" "Bailey," Jeffrey warned, "if you're thinking what I think you're thinking—" "They use their allergy to destroy people's lives," I said. "Maybe it's time they got a taste of their own medicine." "Literally," Delaney muttered. I looked between them, my friend who'd helped uncover the truth, and my brother-in-law who'd lived under his parents' manipulation his whole life. "Are you with me?" Jeffrey hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Just Promise me you won't take it too far. I promise, I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I wasn't sure if I could keep them. Sunday arrived with a weight of inevitability. I spent the morning in the kitchen, preparing the elaborate meal Ria had suggested. My hands moved methodically through the familiar motions while my mind raced with doubt and determination. Something smells amazing, Kirk said, entering the kitchen. He'd been walking on eggshells since our fight. Is that Mom's special roast? And more. I gestured to the spread of dishes. I'm making her favorite seafood pasta, too. Seafood? Mom doesn't eat. I thought it was time to expand our family's culinary horizons. I kept my voice light. Just a small portion, mixed in with the regular pasta, for those who want to try it. Kirk shrugged, already distracted by his phone. Just don't be offended when she doesn't touch it. Delaney called while I was packing the food. Are you sure about this? The shellfish is just for show, I assured her. A message. I have copies of all the documents ready. And Jeffrey? He's meeting us there. He'll back me up when I confront them. Bailey, Delaney hesitated. Just remember, you can't take it back once it's done. The drive to Ria and Morgan's house felt like heading into battle. Kirk chatted about work, oblivious to my white-knuckled grip on the food containers. Jeffrey met us at the door, his face tense. Mom's in rare form today, he whispered as he helped me with the dishes. She's been practicing her concerned mother speech all afternoon. Perfect. I started arranging the food on their formal dining table. Let her perform. Ria swept in, immaculate as always. Bailey, dear, I'm so glad you decided to be reasonable about tonight. Her eyes narrowed at the pasta dish. What's that? Just trying something new, I said sweetly. I've been experimenting with different recipes. Morgan joined us, drink in hand. Smells interesting, not your usual fare. That's the point, I smiled. Time for some changes, don't you think? Everyone settled around the table, Ria and Morgan at the heads, Kirk and Jeffrey on one side, me alone on the other. The power dynamic wasn't lost on me. Before we eat, Ria began, folding her hands, we need to discuss your recent behavior, Bailey. My behavior? I served myself some pasta. Please elaborate. Your attitude, your resistance to family traditions, your career obsession. Ria's voice dripped with rehearsed concern. We're worried about you, dear. Actually, I set down my fork. I've been worried about you, too. Oh? Morgan raised an eyebrow. I reached into my bag and pulled out the first document. Particularly about your health issues, the ones you've kept secret for so long. The color drained from Ria's face. Morgan set down his glass too quickly, splashing wine on the pristine tablecloth. What are you talking about? Kirk asked. Show them, Jeffrey. Jeffrey pulled out his phone, displaying the old news article about the restaurant lawsuit. Remember the Riverside Grill, Dad? The owner whose life you ruined? That's enough, Morgan snapped. No, it's not. I laid out more documents. I have everything. The insurance fraud, the lawsuits, the pattern of destroying people's lives using your secret condition as a weapon. Bailey, Kirk started. What are you doing? Showing you who your parents really are. I pushed the seafood pasta toward Ria. Would you like some, Mother? Or should we discuss how you've used your shellfish allergy to manipulate and destroy people for years? The silence was deafening. Ria's hands trembled as she stared at the documents. Morgan's face had turned an alarming shade of red. You ungrateful little, he began. Careful, I cut him off. The documents are already with my lawyer. One word from me, and everything goes public. You're bluffing, Ria whispered. Try me. I stood up. I'm done being your puppet, done watching you control and manipulate everyone around you. This ends now. Kirk, Morgan turned to his son, control your wife. But Kirk was staring at the restaurant article, his face ashen. Is this true? Did you really destroy that family just to win a lawsuit? We did what was necessary, Ria said stiffly, for the family. The family? Jeffrey laughed bitterly. You mean for your power, your control. I gathered my things, my heart pounding but my voice steady. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to back off, No more interference in my career, my marriage, my life, or everything comes out. You can't prove any of this, Morgan blustered. Want to bet your reputation on that? I walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and the pasta? It's regular, but watching you squirm? That was the real dish I served tonight. As I left, Jeffrey followed me out. Behind us, I could hear Kirk's raised voice demanding answers from his parents. The night air felt clean and fresh. For the first time in months, I could breathe freely. But this was just the beginning. The next morning, my phone exploded with notifications. Missed calls from Kirk, who hadn't come home last night. Texts from Jeffrey warning me that his parents were on the warpath. And one voicemail from Morgan that made my blood run cold. You have no idea what you've started, his voice growled. We built this family's reputation over generations. We won't let some outsider destroy it. I played the message for Madeline over breakfast at her place. Sounds like a threat, she said, pushing her coffee aside. Maybe we should call the police. And tell them what? That my in-laws are mad I exposed their secret allergy? I shook my head. No, we stick to the plan. My phone buzzed again, Kirk calling. I answered on speaker. Where are you? His voice was ragged. We need to talk. I'm safe. That's all you need to know. Bailey, please. What you did last night. Mom and Dad are furious. They're talking about legal action. Let them try. I kept my voice steady. I have copies of everything. Why are you doing this to our family? Our family? I laughed. There is no our family, Kirk. There's just their family, and I'm done being their victim. The door chime interrupted us. Madeline checked the security camera and froze. It's your in-laws, she whispered. All of them. I ended the call with Kirk. Through the window, I could see Rhea, Morgan, and Kirk standing at Madeline's front door. Jeffrey was there too, hanging back with an apologetic look. Back door, Madeline mouthed, pointing to her kitchen. But before I could move, Morgan's voice boomed through the door. We know you're in there, Bailey. We just want to talk. Like civilized people, Rhea added, her voice sickly sweet. I took a deep breath and opened the door. They filed in, an invasion force in expensive clothes. Civilized? I said. Like how you civilized that restaurant owner, or all the others you've destroyed? Those were business decisions, Morgan said smoothly. Speaking of business, we have a proposition for you. Rhea pulled out a checkbook. Name your price. We can make this all go away. You think you can buy me off? Everyone has a price, Morgan said. And we're willing to be very generous. Kirk stepped forward. Bailey, please. They're offering us a fresh start. We could move to the West Coast branch, away from all this. Us? I stared at him. You're still taking their side? I'm trying to save our marriage. Our marriage was over the moment you chose them over me. The words hurt, but they felt true. I don't want your money. I want justice. Morgan's facade cracked. Justice? You want to destroy everything we've built because we hurt your feelings? No, I pulled out my phone. I want to expose you because of this. I played a video Jeffrey had sent me last night. Security footage from the restaurant they'd sued, showing Rhea and Morgan calmly eating shellfish just weeks before their tragic accident. Where did you get that? Rhea whispered. The owner's daughter kept everything, Jeffrey said quietly. She gave it to me last night. You helped her? Kirk turned on his brother. Your own family? This isn't family, Jeffrey shot back. This is toxic control dressed up as tradition. Morgan stepped toward me, but Madeline moved between us. I have a security system and cameras everywhere, she warned. Don't try anything stupid. You're making a mistake, Rhea said, her voice trembling. We can make your life very difficult. More difficult than you already have? I held up my phone. One click and this goes to every news outlet in the state. Your choice. The room crackled with tension. Kirk looked lost, Jeffrey determined, Madeline ready for anything. But it was the fear in Rhea and Morgan's eyes that told me I'd won. What do you want? Morgan finally asked. Complete independence. No interference in my life or career. And you're going to quietly pay back every person you've destroyed with your little allergy scam. That's blackmail, Rhea hissed. No, that's karma. They left one by one, first Morgan and Rhea, then Jeffrey with a quiet, I'm proud of you. Kirk lingered at the door. Is this really how you want to end things? He asked. I thought about the bright-eyed man I'd married, now replaced by this stranger who couldn't see past his parents' manipulation. You ended things long ago, I said softly. You just didn't tell me. After he left, Madeline hugged me tight. Are you okay? No, I admitted. But I will be. My phone buzzed with a text from Jeffrey. They're already calling their lawyer. This isn't over. I smiled grimly. Good, I texted back. Because neither am I. The law office was cold and sterile, matching the expressions of everyone around the conference table. Rhea and Morgan sat rigidly on one side with their attorney, while Kirk slouched beside them, avoiding my eyes. Jeffrey had chosen to sit next to me and my lawyer, making his allegiance clear. Let's begin, Morgan's attorney said, spreading documents across the table. My clients are willing to be generous, despite the circumstances. My lawyer, Sandra, a sharp-eyed woman Delaney had recommended, smiled thinly. Before we discuss terms, I'd like to present some additional evidence. She opened her laptop, pulling up financial records. We've traced a pattern of insurance fraud spanning 2 decades. The shellfish allergy was just the tip of the iceberg. Morgan's face reddened. This is absurd. Is it? Sandra turned the screen. Here's proof of 6 different insurance claims, all following the same pattern. And here are the families whose businesses were destroyed in the process. That's confidential information, their lawyer sputtered. Was confidential, Jeffrey corrected, until I gave access to Bailey's team. Kirk's head snapped up. You did what? Someone had to stop them, Jeffrey said quietly. How many lives have they ruined, Kirk? How many people have they destroyed for their precious family reputation? Rhea's perfectly manicured nails dug into the table. Everything we did was for this family, for your future. No, I cut in. Everything you did was for control, and now you've lost it. Sandra laid out our terms. Full financial restitution to all the families they'd harmed, a public admission of the fraud, and complete separation from my life and career. This is blackmail, Morgan growled. This is justice, I replied. Sign the papers, or everything goes public. Your choice. Kirk, Rhea turned to her son. Are you going to let her destroy everything we've built? Kirk finally met my eyes, and I saw something break in his expression. Did you really fake all those allergic reactions? Just to win lawsuits? We did what was necessary, Morgan said stiffly. Was it necessary to destroy that restaurant owner? Kirk's voice rose. To drive him to bankruptcy? His daughter was my first love, did you know that? We were protecting you from an unsuitable match, Rhea sniffed. Like you protected me from Bailey? Kirk stood up suddenly. I can't do this anymore. I won't. The room fell silent. Kirk walked around the table to stand beside me. I'll sign whatever divorce papers you want, he said softly. I'm sorry it took me so long to see the truth. Kirk! Rhea's voice cracked. Don't you dare! Enough, Mom. Kirk's voice was firm. It's over. Sign their papers. Morgan's lawyer reviewed the documents, whispering urgently to his clients. Finally, Morgan reached for the pen. You've won, he said bitterly, scrawling his signature. I hope you're happy. This isn't about winning, I replied. It's about making things right. As Rhea signed, her hand trembling, Jeffrey pulled out his phone. I've already contacted the first family you destroyed. They're eager to hear your apology. You're all traitors, Rhea hissed, but her voice shook. No, Mom, Kirk said. We're finally being honest. After the papers were signed, we filed out of the office. In the hallway, Kirk touched my arm. I know it's too late for us, he said, but thank you for showing me the truth. I nodded, unable to speak. Jeffrey hugged me tightly. You did it, he whispered. You actually did it. Outside, Madeline and Delaney were waiting. They'd been my rocks through everything, and now they rushed forward to embrace me. Is it done? Delaney asked. It's done. I held up the signed agreements. They'll pay back everyone they hurt, and they'll never interfere in my life again. What about Kirk? Madeline glanced back at the building. He finally chose the truth, I said. It's a start. My phone buzzed with a text from the restaurant owner's daughter. Thank you for bringing this to light. Dad can finally have peace. As we walked to our cars, I heard Ria's voice behind me. You'll regret this, all of you. I turned back one last time. No, Ria, the only regret here is that it took so long to expose the truth. Jeffrey and Kirk stood shoulder to shoulder, watching their parents drive away. The family they'd known was gone, but maybe something better could grow from the ashes. Drinks, Madeline suggested. I think we all need one. Yes, I said, feeling lighter than I had in months. But first, I need to make a few calls. There are some families who deserve to hear the good news. The setting sun painted the sky in shades of hope, and for the first time in forever, I felt truly free. The doorbell rang as I was packing the last of Kirk's things into boxes. Jeffrey stood on the porch, holding up a bottle of wine. Thought you might need this, he said, stepping inside. Just got word from the lawyer. Mom and Dad made their first restitution payment to the restaurant family. How are they taking it? About as well as you'd expect. He helped me seal a box. They've basically locked themselves in their house. The country club crowd isn't exactly welcoming since the truth came out. My phone buzzed. A text from Kirk. Signed the divorce papers. They're filed. Thank you for waking me up. You okay? Jeffrey asked, noticing my expression. Yeah, just... I showed him the text. It's strange. I thought this would feel more like an ending. Maybe it's a beginning. He opened the wine. Did you see the local news? They're running a story about Mom and Dad's charitable donations to all the families they hurt. Charitable donations? I laughed. Is that what they're calling court-ordered restitution now? The doorbell rang again. This time it was Madeline and Delaney carrying takeout. We come bearing comfort food, Madeline announced. And news, Delaney added. Remember that promotion I mentioned? The position's yours if you want it. No family connections needed, just your talent. I hugged them both. I can't believe how much has changed in just a few weeks. Speaking of change, Jeffrey said, I got an interesting call today. Remember Kirk's old girlfriend, the restaurant owner's daughter? She's moving back to town. Really? I handed out wine glasses. How's that going? We're having coffee next week. He blushed slightly. Just to catch up. The doorbell rang a third time. My heart stopped when I saw Ria through the peephole. What do you want? I asked through the door. To talk, alone. I looked at my friends, who all nodded encouragingly. We've got your back, Delaney whispered. I opened the door. Ria looked smaller somehow, her designer outfit slightly wrinkled, her perfect makeup showing cracks. May I come in? I stepped aside, letting her enter. She flinched slightly, seeing everyone there. I'll be brief, she said, her voice lacking its usual authority. I've been thinking about everything. That must be new for you, Jeffrey muttered. I deserve that. She twisted her hands together. I deserve all of it. The shame, the social isolation, the looks at church. Her voice cracked. Morgan's business partners are deserting him. Our reputation is ruined, and it's all our own fault. Yes, I said simply, it is. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to tell you. She took a deep breath. You were right, about everything. We became monsters, convinced we were protecting our family while we were actually destroying it. The room was silent. Even Jeffrey looked stunned. Kirk is happier now, she continued. I see it when he visits. He's dating again, speaking his mind. And Jeffrey... She looked at her younger son. You're finally free to be yourself. Mom, Jeffrey started. No, let me finish. Bailey, you did what I never had the courage to do. You broke the cycle. And while I hate you for exposing us... She smiled sadly. I'm also grateful. She turned to leave, then paused. The restaurant owner. We're meeting with him tomorrow. A real apology this time. No lawyers, no scripts, just the truth. After she left, we all sat in stunned silence. Well, Madeline finally said, that was unexpected. Do you believe her? Delaney asked. I thought about it. I believe she's starting to understand That's something. Jeffrey raised his glass. To breaking cycles. To truth, Madeline added. To freedom, I said, clinking my glass with theirs. Later that night, after everyone had left, I stood in my kitchen. My kitchen, not Kirk's, not his family's, and felt the quiet settling around me. My phone lit up with a text from the restaurant owner's daughter. Dad's sleeping peacefully for the first time in years. Thank you. I smiled, thinking about all the lives that had been touched by this battle, the families finding justice, Kirk finding his voice, Jeffrey finding love, Rhea finding humility, and me. I was finding myself again. The doorbell rang one last time. It was Kirk, picking up his boxes. Need help? I asked. No, I've got it. He paused. I heard Mom came by. She did. People can surprise you. Yeah, he smiled slightly. They really can. As I watched him load the last box into his car, I felt no regret, no sadness, just peace. Sometimes the happiest endings aren't about winning or losing, but about finding the courage to stand up for what's right. And sometimes that's enough.